Hey guys, hey, welcome to Mondays with Mark. I'm Mark, and this is Smokeysteveandmarc. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, welcome back. Oh, it's so nice to see you. I was excited about this video tonight because we're gonna have a fun and interesting time. It's our very first Time Warp video and it's on Mondays with Mark. Oh my gosh, I couldn't be more thrilled. In our Time Warp, it's just where we hit the rewind button on the magic remote control. I found it. It lives. And we go back in time to a certain date or a certain era and, take a little look around. So we'll get to that in 1 minute. But first, how the heck are you anyway? So I have to ask you, did you get to see the eclipse today? Neither Steven or I did. We both were working, but it did get dark out and it did have that kind of ominous color, in the sky. We weren't in the line at all. So, I mean, when I say dark, it wasn't like pitch dark or anything like that, but it did have that really kooky color and it was pretty neat, but I do have a couple friends who actually traveled to go see the eclipse, and a friend from work went up to Buffalo, and and you may remember Christine S. here, she's been on the channel before. She's coming down from the Upper Peninsula down to Ohio to witness the eclipse. So I'm hoping to get some really fun pictures to share later this week. So you know what? If you did see it and you have some pictures, please shoot them on over to us, either our email address or even instant messenger. That's a good way to send them, and I'll share them and we'll share the pictures later this week. Oh, I can't wait to see them. And of course, I'm sure it'll be on the news and everything too. So all right. Oh, so you know what? Okay. So I think it's time, right? I think it's time we go back in time anyway. And when we do these, you know what? We're going to have some interesting facts and a project, maybe a recipe. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's do this. It's time to hit rewind and go all the way back in time to the Depression era. Ooh, this is cool, huh? The year was 1929, October 29th, 1929 to be exact, and it was a Tuesday, which later became known as Black Tuesday. Panic descended upon the New York Stock Exchange as prices collapsed and thousands of investors got completely wiped out. The American Great Depression had begun. It was a time of great economic crisis. Money was scarce. The average income of the American family dropped by 40% from 1929 to 1932. Income fell from $2,300 a year to $1,500 per year, and the unemployment rate became 1 in 4 people and would not fall below 10% until the Second World War began. And farmers were hit hard. About 750 farms were lost through sheriff sales or through bankruptcy during the Great Depression. In the American Midwest, farmers really struggled, where a great drought turned the soil into dust, causing huge dust storms.
And children hurt too. It is estimated that almost half of the children in the United States did not have enough food, proper housing, or medical care during the Great Depression. Around 300,000 companies went out of business. Hundreds of thousands of families could not pay their mortgages and were evicted from their homes. And around 11,000 banks failed during the Great Depression, leaving many with no savings at all. People would stand in long lines at soup kitchens just to get a bite to eat. Herbert Hoover was President of the United States when the Great Depression began. Many people blamed Hoover for the Great Depression. They even named the shantytowns where homeless people lived Hoovervilles after him. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected president, and he promised the people of America a new deal.
There must be a strict supervision of all banking and credit and investment.
Now, despite the New Deal's many laws, programs, and government agencies enacted to help the country deal with the Great Depression and the alleviation of the worst effects of it, it was the humming of factories that supplied the American war effort that finally brought the Depression to a close.
The Great Depression, well, it definitely left a lasting legacy, and that's for sure. I mean, many people never overcame their fear of going to bed hungry or not having enough money. And on the topic of food, well, back then, I mean, people had to use what they had to make their meals, and oftentimes they didn't have enough. And what came about from that was, well, an array of very interesting recipes from that era. And well, I think that's a perfect time to head over to the kitchen and whip up a dish straight from the Depression era. You know, when it comes to cooking and baking, those recipes from years and years ago, well, they always seem to circle back around. And this is especially true with Depression-era cuisine. You know, like the wacky cake or peanut butter bread, or how about the mock apple pie? You know, fruits were pretty hard to get during the Depression, and this recipe, well, it doesn't have apples in it all. Instead, it swaps out the apples for crackers, and it's surprisingly good too. So good that people do still make it today. And how about Hoover stew? And I'm not talking about the vacuum, I'm talking about the president. During the Depression, people were angry. They were angry at the government or any person in power that they thought wasn't helping out enough. So they started naming bad things after President Hoover, the man they blamed for it all. And Hoover stew, well, it only has 4 ingredients: hot dogs, macaroni, tomatoes, and corn. Fresh, canned, it didn't matter. Depression-era cooks, they used what they had. And did you know bread and butter pickles? Well, they were created in the Depression. Yep, they were. A lot of people started growing their own food during that time. And at the end of the season, they would gather up all of the leftover cucumbers and they would pickle them to last long into the winter. And what a wintertime treat it was to have some fresh pickles between 2 slices of buttered bread. But I'll tell you, one of the most interesting and most popular recipes from that era is the water pie. And that's what we're gonna make today. So what the heck is a water pie anyway? Well, it's simply, a dessert that reflected what people were going through at the time. It allowed people to have a sweet dessert without having to use up their valuable resources. And this recipe, I mean, it doesn't have milk, eggs, anything like that in it, and it only has 6 ingredients. And they are, we have here 1 cup of sugar, 1.5 cups of water, 4 tablespoons of flour, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 5 tablespoons of sliced up butter, and 1 unbaked 9-inch pie crust. And you know what? Besides this being extremely affordable to make, it's also super easy. Let's do it. Come on. The first thing we're going to do is place our pie pan on top of another pan like this and get it all ready to go there. And then we're going to pour our water right on top of the pie crust like that, okay? And then we have our sugar here. Move this out of the way. And then we're going to add our flour to it. And then we're going to stir that up until it's all incorporated. All right. And then we're just going to sprinkle that right on top of the water. Sprinkle it all in there, and we're not going to stir it at all. We're just going to sprinkle it on top like that. All right, we are good. Then we take our vanilla and do the same thing. We're just going to sprinkle that over top of that. Okay, and finally our butter. We're just going to lay the pats right on top like this. There's no particular order, no, you don't have to put them in any place, and just place them like that and like that. All right, and now we're going to bake in a 400-degree oven for 30 minutes. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. So at this point, we're going to reduce that temperature to 375 and then let it bake for another 30 minutes. And at this time, it's best to use a pie guard or some strips of aluminum foil around the edges of our crust just to make sure it doesn't burn. Okay, so it's been an hour total. And there we go. There's our water pie. Take this off. Ooh, my crust got dark. Oh, that's okay, though. Now, as you can see, the filling will be quite liquidy like that, and that's okay. That's what we want. It will get a little more solid as it cools. You see, the gluten inside the flour allows the water to kind of set up like a gel or reminiscent of a custard, actually. So at this point, what we have to do, though, we have to allow our pie to cool completely, okay? Oh, we are all cooled off, and I even popped it into the fridge for a couple hours because this pie is best served chilled. Let's see what we got here. Don't break on me. There we go there. Okay, let's take a look. All right, now it's a water pie. Okay. All right, so yeah, this is best served chilled and maybe with a little bit of whipped cream on top of it. And today, folks, well, they switched up the recipe in many ways you can. You can swap out that water for Coca-Cola or Sprite. You can change those extracts up to make a different flavor profile. There's a lot that you can do with this recipe. Now, we're gonna go, well, in a few minutes, we're gonna go back on the couch and we'll give this thing a little taste test to see what we got, okay? But for now, there you have it, our Depression-era water pie. Now, during the Depression, people had to make do with what they had. New recipes were concocted, and foods that people never considered eating before were now consumed without question. And some of those recipes, well, they were, okay, a little bit weird.
Popcorn was one of those affordable foods during the Great Depression. Instead of pouring melted butter over their popcorn, people poured milk over it. And we're not talking about eating it as breakfast. Nope, popcorn with milk was eaten as a dinner time main course. Many people had their own gardens during the Great Depression. Onions were a common vegetable because they were easy to grow and store over the winter months, so essentially they were free. And peanut butter was actually cheap at that time. Enter peanut butter stuffed onions, one of the most curious recipes devised by the Bureau of Home Economics, and it was heavily promoted in advertisements.
And it's a rather easy recipe too. Cooks would take an onion and hollow out the core and peel it. And then they would mix creamy peanut butter with breadcrumbs. And those breadcrumbs usually was like, a slice or two of bread that had went stale. And then they would stuff that hollowed out opening of the onion with that peanut butter. Just like that. And then place it in a baking pan. And then we roast it in a 350-degree oven for 1 hour. And what comes out? is a delicious roasted onion with peanut butter and breadcrumbs that you and your family could enjoy for pennies. I guess enjoy is the important word there, huh? I'm not too certain about this, but heck, we'll give it a try.
Food not only had to be cheap, but it had to be filling. Corned beef luncheon salad was made by combining a can of corned beef, a can of corn, and a can of peas. Added to that were plain gelatin, lemon juice, and vinegar. It was poured into a Jell-O mold and put in the refrigerator until the gelatin was set.
Nutrition and substance over taste. That was the golden rule during the Depression era, and that turned out to be a cauldron of great experiments and recipes. Some of them, yes, admittedly weird, but some of them downright amazing. Today, known as Depression era cuisine. Interesting stuff, huh? All right, so we have our water pie here, and we're going to try it. I'm very optimistic. Okay, I know what it tastes like. This is one of those recipes that my grandmother, who actually lived through the Great Depression, used to make, and I do remember it as a child, and mine's a little thin. They do come out thin like this, but not, it's maybe not quite as thin, but I only have a deep dish pie pan. Do you believe that? So, okay, a regular 8-inch pie pan is going on the bucket list. I know, I can't believe I don't have it. Serve this with some whipped cream or some powdered sugar. You can even put some cinnamon on top of it. Oh, it'd be so good. So anyway, you know what? This is very good. Very good. I can absolutely see why this recipe kind of withstood the test of time there, and people are still making it today. It's very, very, very good. And how about the peanut butter stuffed onion? Okay, I wasn't brave enough to try this one. I haven't had this before, and I think what we're going to do is have Steve try it because, I don't know. I'm not too sure about this one. I don't know. I thought it was very interesting that it was promoted so much during the Depression, as a lot of recipes were. The government would advertise certain recipes that you could make with the rations that were given, and this was one of them. I don't know about that. It is kind of like a piece of artwork, isn't it? And speaking of art, the Great Depression was a worldwide economic collapse. It affected almost all industries and construction by either halting it or changing, almost all production. And art and culture, of course, it was affected too.
Now, some of the artistic and cultural movements from earlier years, such as the Harlem Renaissance, jazz, realism, and ragtime, which, by the way, was the forerunner to jazz, that all continued through the years of the Great Depression. There were a wave of artists who began to incorporate elements of nostalgia into their works as a reaction to the challenges they were facing. Artists portrayed the despair held by most Americans as the result of record high unemployment and low job availability, and mirrored the nation's weariness from the Great Depression with sad scenes that alluded to hardship and even death. And we can't forget about the radio and the movies. Americans would listen to the radio and go to the movies as an escape from their lives and to learn how America was fighting against its social and economic problems.
So the impact of this era on arts and cuisine and culture, it certainly made an impact, that's for sure. One that we can still see, hear, and taste today. It's DIY time! Woo-hoo-hoo. Yes, it is! When I was thinking of doing this project for this video, I decided to go with a vintage project, not necessarily from the Depression era, but vintage nonetheless. Today, we're gonna make a vintage book wall clock. So heck, let's get started! So as far as our materials go, well, we obviously need a book. And any book will do. You can use an old vintage book that you have, and or you could go thrift one like I did here. We're going to make these ones look a little more vintage than they are, but just make sure that the book that you're going to use, you don't want to read anymore, okay? Because we won't be able to open it up once we're done with it. We'll also need one of these clock movement kits here. You can get them at any craft store. Walmart carries them, or online. We'll need some tacky glue and a brush, a pen, your scissors, a ruler, and then you'll need an X-Acto knife or a box cutter like this, and a power drill. So let's start, well, with the first step. And that will be the book. Now, if you happen to have a book that is already vintage, like the hardcover on there is already vintage, you actually can skip this step if you'd like. But the books that I found at the thrift store all were just like this, real plain like this. So I want to make them look vintage. So I happen to have these kind of vintagey sheets that I got from Temu a while back. And I'm going to apply that to this. Now, if you don't have something like this, you can always use printed tissue paper, or napkins work really well, or heck, you can even print something out right on your printer. And let's see, I'm gonna go with this here. I like this one. Yes, so we just kind of measured it and trimmed it to fit the cover of our book like that. And then I just also trimmed a little bit for the spine as well, just because if it's hanging on the wall, you'll see the side there too, okay? And watch this, it's as easy as this. Using our tacky glue, or you could use Mod Podge as well, we're going to cover the whole cover of our book with it. All right, just like that. And then we're going to lay out, here I'm going to do it so I can see. Okay, we're going to just kind of center it on there. We already know it fits, so we just want to make sure that it's straight. And we're just going to give it a light push down here, make sure we're straight all the way around. And we are. Okay, so that's on there like that. And then we're going to complete it with another coat of our Mod Podge, or our tacky glue, right on top. And then we're going to let it dry completely. Here's a little tip. Put a little fan on there. It will dry in like 10 minutes. But with the magic of TV, we have one done. Doesn't it look nice? Oh, I hope you can see it. It's nice and shiny and antique-y looking. That's pretty cool looking there. All right, so now we're gonna grab our clock mechanism here, just like that. They're all pretty much the same too. The company I got this from was Plaid, I believe. Yeah, that's the name of it, Plaid. That's the company. And we're gonna figure out where we want our clock face to go. I think the center is gonna be good. And then we're just going to get a pen or a pencil, and we're just going to mark a little dot in the center of our cover here, like that, and then make sure we're centered there, and we are, so we are centered right there, good. And now this is where our drill comes in. So you want a bit that is the same size as the center post of your mechanism here, because we're going to be sticking this through the hole that we make in our book, okay? And I believe this one that I have is 1/4 inch. So now where we have it marked, we're going to drill down through, and maybe about halfway through the book. You're not going to go all the way through.
Now that our hole is drilled in the cover, I took the clock mechanism and I placed it upside down in the hole on the inside of our book, and then took a pencil and traced all around it. And this will be the template we use to cut out a space for the clock mechanism to set inside. And we do that by using our X-Acto knife or box cutter.
All right, okay, there we go. We're all hollowed out there, and that wasn't bad at all. I mean, that took me, it took me 7 minutes to cut this out with a box cutter, so that's not bad. And all these little pieces here, I don't like to waste anything, especially from a book. So I'm gonna make these into some paper flowers, so I am gonna save those. But I guess the true test here is, does it fit? Let's see. It does! Look. Nice. Okay, so all that's left to do now is put our hands on. And you would start with your you would start with your hour hand first, goes down first, and it kind of like snaps into place. Look, I'm going to lose them all. And then your minute hand, and then finally your second hand. And that one should have a little thing like this on it, and that'll fit right in the top of that. There's a little hole there, and secure them all together. And they all, depending on what kind of brand you have, they all pretty much work the same way. And that's all there is to it, really. I mean, it's really not a hard project to do, and I really like the way it looks, huh? Now, of course, at this point, you can put numbers. If you want to do a clock face on it, you absolutely can do that. If you can find some gold stickers, number stickers, or if you're good with a gold paint pen, you could just handwrite it on there. I'm not good at just, freestyling it, but I tell you, I like the way it looks without any numbers at all, so I think I'm going to leave mine all naked like this. Now, what I did do with the gold paint pen, I don't know if you can see it or not, I added some accents on there just by taking a little dot and then rubbing it with my finger like that, just to kind of give it a little antique look to it all over it. And then on the back, I just used some ribbon to put a little hanger, in case we want to hang this on the wall, But you could just set it on a nightstand, open it up a little bit, it'll stand by itself. Or how about on a fancy easel? Set it up on the mantle or however you want to display it. I can't decide if I'm going to hang it on the wall or if I'm going to put it on this easel. I just am not sure. But there you have it, our vintage book clock. Oh, man. I don't know. I had a good time tonight. I hope you did too. I hope we all of course, enjoyed it, but maybe we learned a little something. It was so interesting learning about the Depression. And oh my gosh, I mean, we've only scratched the surface too. I mean, there was so much more that happened during that time, we couldn't squeeze it even into one video, but, or two or three even, but it was really, really fascinating and a lot of fun to do too. And how about our antique wall clock there? Our antique book clock? Oh, I really like it. Got the other one started here, so I got to finish the second one, because I do think this would make a nice gift too, huh? So, we'll have to get working on that. And are you going to help me, huh? Oh, I know. You want to come say hello? Hello, everybody. It's my buddy. Oh, yes. Yeah, is that right? Oh. Anyway, okay, so, I don't know, a couple little things to tell you about. Coming up this week, we're going to have a mail call. I got a notification that we have some cards and packages there, and I don't know if they all came on the same day when I got the notification or if they've been there, but I'm going to go pick that up, and we'll have a little mail call this week. And as y'all know, we have been struggling a bit with our audio and visual, either with the cameras or some type of setting that changed, and I'm not sure what it was, but we did reach out to YouTube and Samsung, and we are aware of it, and we are working on it, Part of the reason this video is out so late tonight is, well, dealing with that, we were going between two different cameras and testing things out and having to send videos here and there. So I don't know, but we really, really thank you for your patience, because I know it can be pretty annoying, for sure. But anyway, I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. It does mean a lot to me. I really hope you enjoyed our video tonight, and definitely hit that subscribe button, okay? And the notification bell too. That way you'll know when we have a new video coming out. And all of our contact information is right down below. That's our post office box and our email address. If you have any questions on anything we made today or anything, please do shoot me an email and I will get back to you. Check us out over on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and the X. We are. Thank you again, everybody. Wow. I like ending my Mondays this way, because Mondays sometimes can be a little So you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time, okay? Ciao, everybody.